Today's guest, I have listened and watched to so much, especially over the last few years, actually. He has so much to say. But as always, I wanted to know more about him on a personal level. I hope you enjoyed this one as much as I did. He makes so much sense. So today is a good one. And I really want to thank Mark for coming on. So look, enjoy it. This is Mark Fennell. One thing I've noticed about women when they start business is they can be pretty bold. But when it comes to spending money, they just want it to be quick and easy. You only need one business account for your finances, and that's where Revolut Business comes in. Keep everything calm and tidy so you don't have to overthink every tap and transaction you make. You can sort your team out with virtual cards, you can set limits and automate your accounting by integrating your software. That way, you're not dealing with any mystery charges, you're not searching for receipts or digging through emails. You've got real-time notifications, tidy budgets, and way less admin. And guys, loads of people are doing this already. Over 20,000 people sign up monthly to Revolut Business and have full control of their spending. But the best bit is, you can too. BBell listeners get €200 welcome bonus if you sign up at www.revolut.com/RB/BBell. So if you're building something amazing, which I know you are, then you want to control your finances from day one. And so Revolut can help you with that. The offer is valid to all new business customers in Ireland. Sign up before September 30th, 2025 and add money to your account to get your bonus. T's and C's apply. Mark, welcome. I am delighted to have you on. I'm so glad we started, actually, because we were really getting into a conversation there.
I know.
But it's so hard. I actually think I am in future. I think I just have to turn my phone on or something, because you get some really lovely nuggets from that conversation when people first come in.
There is that. But
Absolutely.
listen, it was a good two chatters here, I think. That's the thing.
I know.
So, yeah.
This could be a long one, guys. This could be a long one. Actually, I listened to a pod of yours the other day and there was 2 episodes and I was like, this guy likes to talk. I'm going to have really good
when they're
fun.
breaking it into 2, you know.
It's good though. It's all good.
signs.
It's all good. But listen, BBell is all about me finding out more about the person behind what they do and why they do what they do on a daily basis. So tell me, where did it all start? Where were you born?
Where was I born? I was born in Dublin. No, as I say, I'll try and keep the long story short, right? No, born in Dublin. Wonderful family and so forth. 2 sisters as well. We were born, we didn't actually have much when we were born. I always think it's a funny story, and it's only when I see photos that I believe it's actually true. But my parents are hard grafters, but when I was born, they didn't have a home. So, they just gotten married, then I was born a year later or whatever. And so we ended up living in a caravan in the back garden of my grandmother's. Okay. And I see that now and it's like, well, that's like modern day Shomers, isn't it?
Yeah,
kind of.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think the love for caravans as we grew up, because that's what we spent a lot of our summers, our abroad was Wexford.
Yes.
Our sun holiday.
Oh, listen, we were caravanners as well.
And Cork, you just never got there because that's just way too far,
okay.
So that was, so that's where we started off. We didn't start off obviously a huge amount, but look, never was in need or want, my parents always looked after us amazing, so it was.
I was going to say,
really
did you notice even though? Because,
no, didn't notice.
You had everything you needed.
Everything we needed, and happy out, thankfully.
And where did you land with the sisters?
I'm the eldest.
Are you? Okay.
Yeah.
Still golden child, the only boy?
So they might say I am.
Okay. I say they do. Yeah. They normally do.
They do actually, yeah. But anyway, that's an ongoing thing. Yeah. I'll never outgrow that, but I'll take it. So that was it. Anyway, and then where'd I go from there? Yeah, school was good, but I suppose if you're asking what was significant points in your life, sometimes people ask that question. One of them was when I was in school. I was a very quiet kid. Okay. And I had blonde curly hair. Wouldn't mind having more of that now, but anyway. So I was like something out of the Von Traps, It was like a target on my back for bullies. Okay. So bullying was really bad for me for a number of years. That was probably when you could think back, what was the first toughest thing you ever went through? And that was probably it, because it wasn't just bullying or a name calling.
And how old were you?
Oh goodness, 8 when it started.
It's tough, isn't it?
Yeah. So it was 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 till I left the school.
Wow.
So it was a long time.
Yeah.
But then in the summers, I'd want to be at home. I didn't want to go on the streets because if I see them, because they all lived in the same area, So that was really, really, really tough. And I didn't want to tell my parents because I said, I know my mum will kick the door into the school and, have guts for garters. So I says, I'm not doing that. So I kept the head down, became kind of reclusive in my bedroom, and I always thought it was me. That was the interesting thing. And so I used to think, I must not be the cool kid. I mustn't fit in. I must just be the odd one. And I had that literally that's what I would have taught myself. So I saw myself very, very low.
Okay.
But that's okay. Keep your head down. Keep out of trouble. Play in your room with your toys, and everything will be okay. And I did that for years. And then I left primary school, went to secondary school, new school, said that should be the end of it now. Hopefully he didn't make it into the school. There was a bully and a few cohorts. Yes. And then the first day I pull up to the school, the bike shed, I cycled, and he was standing there. And he says, I can't believe you're going to this school as well. We're going to have some fun. And I just remember my heart wanting the ground to swallow me up. Because I put up with it for like 3 years, 4 years at that point. So long and the short of it, I ended up standing up to him. And I don't know what happened to me over the summer, but I said, I'm not going to go through this anymore. And it was I know now what it was, but back then I couldn't verbalize it.
Yeah.
But I said, I would rather, go down fighting than just accept this anymore. That's kind of what it was. And I said to him, don't you dare. I said to him, I dare you to hit me. I dare you. And I must have had some look on my face or something. I don't know what happened. And this is not what I advise for people either, because this guy was bigger than me. And I did it. He flicked it. He went to go flick a cigarette at me. That was his thing. He always flicked cigarettes at me. And horrendous stuff. I remember one point I got new shoes and the teacher went, oh, you've lovely new shoes. And I remember going, don't say that because they'll hear that. And then afterwards they made me stand in dog's dirt, and stuff like that. So anyway, so it was horrendous stuff and punching and all that kind of. So anyway, long and short of it, I said, don't you dare do that to me. And I said, because anyway, whatever other words I said, but I convinced him that I was ready to kind of take him on. And I genuinely was. I was prepared to go down. I'd die fighting, right?
Yeah.
If that was the case. And got a lot of support from the lads around, woo, and all this kind of stuff. It was a big circle at this point. And I never got bullied again. And then that's something in my head says, you know what if you had stood up sooner? The fear made me not. Anyway, at a young age, I started having all these kind of, oh, okay. And that gave me like a little spurt of confidence that you can stand up for things. You still might get bet, but you can just stand up anyway.
It's mad, isn't it? I had Tammy Darcy on the pod recently, and she does the Shona Project. So looking at, young girls, and she's just started for boys as well, actually. She's just starting that off the ground. And we were talking about confidence, and I was like, it comes with practice. And she goes, the courage comes first. And your courage came first. Yeah,
and don't ask me where it came from, but I just was like, maybe I was watching a lot of superhero movies at the time. I don't know what, but it's just something in me said, I can't continue for the next 6 years with this. There's no way. I can't.
And were you at single-sex school or?
Yeah, all boys.
All boys.
All
okay.
boys.
So I was wondering if your sisters saw it.
No, they wouldn't have known. They were always separate school.
Okay.
So it was a lot of bravado as well, and it was kind of dog eat dog. And then I just took. That was it. And then it was okay. I learned a lot though.
Yes.
And that's why I'm so passionate about people who are bullied, because I know that feeling, that kind of way. But I also know it's on the other side if you can manage it.
Absolutely. But that's extreme. That was for a long time.
Yeah,
I speak to so many people in this room, and lots of them have been bullied, loads. Yeah. In fact, probably more than haven't.
Yeah.
And I was saying the other day, but I remember experiencing it for a very short period of time. And I remember saying, it's just my turn. When they're over it now, they'll move on to the next one, and it'll be somebody else in the group's turn.
Yeah.
And I kind of watched those turns happen. Yeah. And so you become then the bully. It's like, you're letting it happen. So you've said it's okay to do it to the next person, but it's off you. So you're like relieved.
Yeah, it's kind of like, okay, grand. Kick it down the road.
Where'd you go?
Yeah, it is. And I think for a lot of people, like for me, it was what I see now is such a discovery. It was one of the worst things I went through. Now I went through worse things, in adult life, but it was the worst possible thing I could have gone through at that time. But it was one of the best things in hindsight, because it really gave me not just an understanding, but an understanding about me and life. But the big thing that it gave me was, what if you help other people with this? And so that was kind of where it started. And then fast forward, my parents were always involved in charity. Again, like that, they know what it was like to come from tough backgrounds, so they wanted to kind of give back, and they were very hard grafters, great business people, very entrepreneurial, and they did very well. So I inherited that gene, thank God, the entrepreneur one. Because what I used to do when I was younger, I used to always work summers, kind of way to kind of, and I was working from 8 years old onwards, like mad. But here's what happened. They dragged me along to the charity work they did, and they used to work in the inner city Dublin, tough areas,
Yeah.
and they dragged me along, and I saw the good they were doing, and then I saw the bullying was a different level. You know, it was crazy, and I just by osmosis I started to go, what if I tell my story here? What could that do for people? Because there was my peers that they were a similar age, a bit younger, and that just gave me the flair for coaching. You know,
It's amazing, isn't it?
and then from there, the business gene in me just got ignited when I was 21. I read a book. How to Win Friends and Influence People, Dale Carnegie, The Magic of Thinking Big, and I read all these books, and I hated reading. Hated reading.
I hate reading.
Right?
Yeah.
But now my attic, our ceiling is bowing because I've so many books in the attic, and I've a couple of I've Audibles, but I have a few Kindles. Now I love reading when it's the right book.
Yes.
Right. So I started getting into the business coaching and so forth at that age. I was only 20s, like very young, and I was helping them. And I was teaching them, you know, little things that I knew. I didn't know a huge amount at that point either, but it was learning to teach it. And the best way to teach something is to learn it, you know, or the best way to learn it is to teach it. And that's when my business coaching come on. So from there, the personal and professional development coaching just took off. And sure, that's 22 years ago now, 21 years ago.
It is mad, isn't it?
So that's the story, long story short.
Yeah, no, I love it. And what I have to ask, when you were 8, like, because I started working at about that age as well, but what was the job?
So my neighbours cut down trees, and all the trees are stacked up. And my dad was going, that's a lot of firewood now that's going to go to the dump. And I was like, I wonder would people like buy it?
Yeah.
Because my dad was the offcuts he was taking for his own fire. So you have to get it cut up. So I went to the guys, I said, can I cut it up? I bought a bow saw, right? So my dad's bow saw, I didn't buy it, he had a bow saw, which is a big saw, which is not for an 8-year-old.
No.
And I started trying to use that. And then the guy that was cutting the trees down said, listen, I'll chop them up for you with a saw, stand back. And I went up to Super Value and I got, you know, the roll of plastic bags for the fruit and veg? Now they were stronger and bigger back then, right?
Like,
they're not like now. They were like proper plastic bags. Asked the Super Value guy, could I have a roll of them? Yeah, got them. Put sticks in it, the chopped up thing. Got it, my granddad's old bike, I think it was, and he had these leather pouches and a basket on it. It was not a cool bike. Loaded up with sticks and went door to door selling sticks. I did that for the summer, and that was the beginning of the entrepreneur bug. And every summer since, my dad made sure I was working at something, either for someone or for myself. Yeah. And that was the beginning.
Were you always a double jobber?
Always. I love work. I love work that feels rewarding. And if it's not like back then, it's making a few quid. But now, I think as you get older, it's not just making a few quid. There has to be a bit of purpose to it as well. You know, there has to be a bit of depth. And so that's, the bug started then. One of the interesting things, though, that happened, and I've just kind of thought about it now, I many years later, I had a really tough time from working too much. Right. And it's sort of 15 years ago now. And I just burnt out. I was fortunate enough to travel to the States, speaking all over the place. So I was doing a lot of traveling. I was a young guy and I was loving life. It was brilliant as a coach, like to be speaking. And then when you go to America, you're speaking to big crowds. Do you know what I mean? Like we're 4 figures. And I loved all that. And the only reason I was there was because they saw the work that I'd done here and they said, someone young, that's different. Come on over. Long and the short of it. Anyway, eventually I burnt out. I didn't realize I was half jet lagged most of the time, but I burnt out really, really bad. And the first time I was introduced to anxiety and chronic anxiety. So, and I always remember during that time, this was just like the bully, but instead of the bully being external, it's now internal. And it was the hardest battle. And I used to say the battlefield is the mind. And I remember that was one of the hardest things I ever did. But because I'd gone through that bullying thing, it kind of gave me, don't give up, even if you're going to take a few hits kind of thing. And just that holding, and this sounds so kind of light, but it's so deep as well. Just holding on to hope. Don't know how I'll get out of this. No one talks about mental health 15, 16 years ago. I'm not meant to even talk about it as a man. It's not cool. So who do you go to? What do you do? I went to nobody, essentially said I'll figure it out. My wife and family knew, and eventually broke through that. Took about 2 years to do it. It was a long road. And now it was chronic anxiety. So I had health anxiety because I collapsed in a gym. They thought it was a heart attack and kind of lots of big questioning moments. And long and short of it, I realized that sometimes the worst bully we face is the internal one, not the external one. And that was a game changer. And that's easier to say now, but during the time it's horrendous. But holding on to hope is more powerful than you think. It's just that I'm not going to give up. I'm just not going to give up. The bully's bigger than me. I don't know a way out. I'll probably get battered, or anxiety. It'll probably make me feel terrible, but I'm just not going to give up. That one day I'll get that break and a little bit of a window. And
but how do you do that? What is the process? Do you know what I mean? You know, do you take time off work? What do you do?
Yeah, I mean, we had a mortgage. I was married. Mortgage, no taking time off. A little bit of time, but not much. And when you work for yourself, like there's no paid holidays.
No, there isn't.
So as all the business owners I work with always kind of say, we don't get paid for taking time off. It costs money, you know. But basically, I mean, obviously I go in depth a little bit more in my book, but it is that choice is the first step. The choice to, I'm not going to give up, and I will get through this. No matter how dark it gets, no matter how tough it is, I will not give up. And it's making that choice at the start that is so, so important. And I tell you why, because, Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, everyone knows that book. It's a great book. But he says between the stimulus and our reaction, there's a space called choice. And we can't control what happens to us or how we feel all the time or what happens tomorrow. But we can always choose our reaction.
Yes.
And having that reaction of, I don't know how to react, but my main reaction is, I'm just not going to give up, and this too will pass. As I say, it's easier said than done, but that's the first step.
Yeah.
It's making the choice. Because so many people, like fixed and growth mindset, if you want to get into it, but so many people go, oh, I don't have what it takes. Or, oh, sure, that's great for them, but I'm not like that. Or I'm not able to do that. Every single person has a potential in them that they don't realize. And you're a coach as well. You know this.
Yeah, I know. And we sing off the same hymn sheet, but sometimes it's really hard for people to get their head around that. And that growth mindset piece as well is really hard. Like, I don't know if, I work with a lot of women, not so many men, and a lot of women that are later in life, probably hitting perimenopause, and that anxiety piece is massive. And that, or we go completely opposite way. They suddenly go, I can.
Yeah.
And why didn't I?
Yeah.
And it's like a second part of life, And
that's my quote. If anyone knows my coaching for over the years, I've always said my quote is, I can, I will, I must.
Yeah.
And that became my thing. I don't know how I will. I don't know how I can. And I don't know what's tomorrow, but I just know I can. And therefore I will not give up, because you can just as easily believe that to give up.
Yes.
So I never went on medication or anything. And what was amazing from it, it was one of the worst things I ever went through, but one of the greatest things I ever went through, because my coaching just leveled up to 10x.
Well, I was going to say, I think it's probably the greatest thing for all of your clients.
Listen, the psychology you learn behind it, and you understand how it feels. You're not just, a lot of people now are helping people, but it's textbook based, not experience based. And I always think if you're going to help someone, you need to have some skin in the game. So rather than just kind of recite stuff, because anyone can recite stuff. You can jump on AI now, it'll recite stuff, but lived experience cannot be replicated. And I think that's the key. And so what I found was, it's making that choice was the first piece. But then the second choice was your actions will take you to a mindset far quicker than you'll think yourself there. So how you think is very important, but take an action. And here's what I mean. Yeah. I woke up each and every day and I used to say, I've got to do this, this, and this. No matter how I feel, I'm getting out of bed, getting dressed, getting washed, showing up, helping clients. Not about me, it's about them. Doing a talk tonight. I'm getting up. That's what I'm doing today. Anxiety, you can come along if you want.
Yeah.
And that's how, and through that thing, that action will always make a person more confident than words. Words are important, but actions mean so much.
Did you ever feel you're pushing it down though?
So repression is not the answer.
Okay.
So I used to say, like I said, anxiety, you can come along if you want.
Yes.
I'm cool with you being it.
Okay.
So anxiety is like a cloud, right? Yeah. If I use this metaphor. I've heard people say different things, but it's like a cloud. You can't control that cloud coming in. You can't control when it leaves. You don't know how long it's going to be around. But you can control what you do while it's there, and if it comes back or if it doesn't. So it's known what to do. So it's known not to, if I try to blow it away, I'll be pretty tired. Cloud ain't going nowhere.
Yes.
So don't try and repress it. Don't try pretend it's not there. No, there's a cloud. It's not a good one. It's a dark one. But I'm going to go about my day. And this anxiety I'm feeling, it's okay. It's human. It's my nervous system overstimulated. It's probably, distressed. It's cortisol. I've worked too much for too long. It's all these reasons. It could be hormonal. And it's okay. And I feel a bit jittery now, but that's okay. I'm human. But once I'm not doing anything that adds to that cloud, you know what I mean? Once I'm not trying to do anything that makes that cloud worse. Yeah. So I can do what I can do to control it, but I can't make it go away. Don't fight the anxiety. It's not about, and I'm always say, when I say, how to beat anxiety, it's not that you beat it or you fight it. And you don't try and, allow it. Don't let it become your terminology like, oh, I'm an anxious person for a start. Don't ever say that. No, you're feeling anxiety, but don't say you're an anxious person, because that then, it does not work for your psyche. So accept that something's a part of your life, but it's not who you are. And I learned that from my grandmother. When she had cancer, she said, cancer is a part of my life, but I'm not seeing myself as a cancer victim. And I remember going, why? I asked her, I said, I used to call her Nanny. I said, Nanny, what do you mean? She goes, because I start seeing myself as cancer victim. Cancer is now my identity. That's not who I am. I've lived my whole life free of cancer. That's who I am. I'm a mother, I'm a wife, I'm whatever. So I'm a grandmother. That's who I am. That's what I want to be remembered for. I said, wow. And I said, that's amazing. Something can be a part of your life, but it doesn't mean you have to be defined by it. And how much can we associate that with so many things in our life?
Oh, just about everything, I'd say.
Everything. You got to be careful what you speak and what you say over yourself, because there's power, life and death in the power of the tongue.
Yeah.
And I think for me, it was be careful how I speak. Oh, there's anxiety. That's okay. Here's what I'll do. I'll take a few. Box breathing was big for me. That's okay. I'll accept that it's there. And I used to have this response. I used to have what's called my own method. I called it PDF, physical dialogue focus, right? I used to physically interrupt the anxiety going, right, I'm not going to sit here and just focus on the anxiety. If I'm sitting on the couch feeling anxiety, I'm going to get up and move. The dialogue would always be, I'm feeling anxious, but that's okay. I'm going to do this now, and that's going to help generate this feeling. And then the focus would be I'd get onto a new focus. So I never repressed it, never tried to bottle it down, because that's a pressure cooker waiting to happen.
Yeah, but do you think though, sometimes I don't realise I'm doing it? Like if you're going through a bit of trauma or something and you're like, this is making me feel very sad. Actually, what makes me happy is helping others. So I'll just go and help others and I'll just be really busy doing that. And then I'm like, oh, it's disappeared, it's gone. And then
action.
And then suddenly 5 years later, you just go, oh, what happened? And then you're like, oh, I didn't deal with this.
Yeah. Well, you know what? This is the thing. I always find it like this. When it comes to, say, something traumatic or big or whatever, like, distraction is a short-term solution, but it's not a long-term one. And that's why, like, for me, it wasn't about distraction, because I knew, as soon as I'm quiet again, I'll feel anxiety. So I knew it wouldn't work. I knew that quickly enough. But what I found was doing everything I can to, shall I say, put up the umbrella with that cloud there. The box breathing, the caffeine, all the simple stuff, the movement, the exercise, all of these things would help me put my umbrella up, even though the cloud was still there. And then I would ask myself, is it normal how I'm feeling? If I'm, say, generalized anxiety, someone's anxiety for no reason, it's just generalized, or it's hormonal, whatever.
Yeah.
And I'll say, I'm feeling anxious. Is there a reason that I've let to be anxious about? Not that I can see on the surface, but then just let it be. It can be subconscious programming. It can be many other things. Just let it be. Don't fight it. Don't fear it. And don't think there's something wrong with you. And
I think that's the important thing, because people, like, we're having this conversation and I'm quite an open book. I talk, we talk about my feelings all the time, but sometimes people don't.
Talk it. Get it out. Talking is therapy. Like, what I found was I had more conversations with my wife about it, trying to figure it out and understand it. And so many of those conversations, she is, I will say, a very wise person, very quiet person. I make up for the gab, but she's quite a wise person. And a lot of the time I would just talk for 15 minutes and then she might just say one or two things at the end, but me just getting it out. When you understand that anxiety doesn't mean you're broken, and it doesn't mean it's forever. It can be hormonal. It can be, people get anxiety just traveling, foreign country, unfamiliar. But when you understand how anxiety works, this is what I love though. When you understand how anxiety works, there's always a reason for it to be there. It might be hormonal. So don't be overthinking it. It might be stuff going on subconsciously that maybe it's in the background, stuff you've been putting off, something that's coming up in September and you're into summer and it's subconsciously there. Start talking about it. Get it out. Don't fear the fear. Talk about it. I feel anxious because, you know what, this, and this. Put it all out. Because when you start to get it out and you stop fearing it, because what happens is we sometimes think, oh, I'm all anxious. Oh, that's wrong. Oh, I'm so anxious. I'm all worked up now. And that thing's happening. And why am I like this? What's going on? I'll go to the doctor. And we just work ourselves up into it. Sometimes you go, I'm anxious because of this. X, Y, Z tool, I always say. I feel X because of Y, and Z might make it better. And sometimes that Z is just talking about it and explaining it, because anxiety more often than not has a reason that it's there. Yes. It's your natural response. Your fight or flight, your amygdala is firing off. There's cortisol in the system for some reason. And for some reason, it's you can feel it. It's visceral. Understand that it's there for a reason. And sometimes it's a reason you don't know. Hormonal, whatever. So figure which part it is. And if you don't have an answer, that's okay. But then you can focus on what you can do to alleviate that anxiety. Anxiety is not to be feared. But here's the big thing about anxiety that most people don't get. So it's because I got through it in 2 years and my GP and whatever else, I've ended up working with a lot of psychologists and they like to hear my side of view because I got through it. I never struggled with anxiety since. Like normal stuff, but never like that, which is
I'd
like...
say you know your body super well now.
Oh, big time. You know, the self-awareness that comes with that. We all know. But here's the thing. Don't focus on the anxiety. Focus on the fear. And there's a difference. Anxiety is a reaction to a perceived threat. A threat is something we fear. What are you afraid of happening? And what if it did happen? Would you be able to cope? Have you been through something similar like it before? Did you get through it then? And if you can say, well, yeah, I did. Well, what's to say you won't get through it now? Self-reassurance. But focus on the fear, not the anxiety. It flicks you into your prefrontal cortex, takes you out of the emotional center of the brain. So you're not all thinking about how do I deal with anxiety? That's why trying to repress it doesn't work. It's trying to like repress an emotion. You can't repress emotions if they're there. If you want to cry, it's like trying to not cry when you want to cry, right?
Yeah.
So I'd always say, what's the fear? What is the actual fear? And I bet we could find out in your past a time when you faced something before, like this, maybe a parallel or something similar. You got through it. And if there is, now you've got the hope. So you know what? If it does go belly up, that thing doesn't work out, I'm going to be okay. And that's the XYZ part, the self-reassurance. Give yourself the hope. I'm going to be fine. Because for me, I'd anxiety, not panic attacks per se, but anxiety attacks. And I realized if they at the time when they went to come on me again, I've been through them before. I got to a point with an anxiety attack and I went, do you know what? I'm tired of just waiting for anxiety to show up. And I remember going, this is right.
Bringing it on.
Come on. Right, what'll I do? What'll I think of that will freak me out, right? I'm not encouraging people to do this. It's a form of exposure therapy, but don't do this, right? And I said, and I literally tried to work myself up and I couldn't. And that was probably the last day I had anxiety. I was like...
But that's exactly what you did to the bully.
Yeah. That's the parallel.
Yeah.
That's why I can't share one story without the other.
That's mental. I absolutely love it. Yeah, no, and I speak a lot about fear because I am a fearful person. I'm very aware. But I will work through, like, I have a fear of heights, say. But actually my fear isn't heights. My fear is falling. And I can feel that feeling of falling by a height. So then I'm like, okay, so how do I restructure that?
Yeah.
What is am I actually going to fall? And what happens when you fall? When you get back up, don't you?
It's so true. You're absolutely right. I do find, not to generalize, but women are way better at this than men. The self-awareness piece, the emotional intelligence. Like men are just like, we
try to teach them.
Not all, no, but I just know from clients. But here's what I will say. At the same time, when, for example, I used to have really bad claustrophobia, right? I couldn't go on lifts or nothing. And I remember, because I'd gotten through the anxiety at this point, I said, what if I can get through the anxiety of claustrophobia? And I started kind of like, in this shopping centre, because they had glass lifts, elevators, I started stepping on and stepping off and started doing this on a consistent basis. And I remember thinking, what am I actually afraid of? Being stuck. Am I going to suffocate? I used to think suffocating. I'm not going to suffocate, right? Okay, so it's not suffocation. Being stuck, can't get out. So what do I need to exercise? You need to get a lot better at patience. And then we're going, all I need to work on is patience. So if I'm in a lift,
breathe.
Think patience, box breathing, patience. And I was able to go on planes then and fly. And now, like, we were on a flight there a long time ago. I ended up calming the nervous passenger beside me. And I was like, if you only knew, I was like, couldn't even get on a plane years ago. But this is what I'm saying is, and it's not anything, I don't have any IQs or anything. It's nothing like that. But I am just saying, I know that this works, and I've seen it work time and time again. And I work a lot with business owners, as we're sharing, and a lot of those fears that come up around finances or around family or whatever else, these things can be broken down with the right person in the right environment. So that's why you have opportunity to hope, whatever your fear might be, just hope. Because I remember thinking this on the plane, but Mark, what if the plane crashes? What if you die? And I remember going to myself, and I remember sharing this with my wife, and we had yet to fly back. And she's like, I'm not sure if I want to hear this, Mark. We've got to take a flight. But I remember going, but I can't control what happens. But it'd be horrible if someone to die. Yeah, but I'm not going to let my thoughts, which are still fiction, create a whole scenario. It's not real until it's real. If it's fact or it's fiction, I get to choose. And I remember going, if I can't control what happens to that plane, and I can't control if, God forbid, the worst case scenario happened, so why should I worry about it? And we're going, and I just that was it.
It's out of my hands.
Yeah, claustrophobia was kind of gone.
Yeah.
But it is gone. And I went to hell and back, and they have this tunnel you got to crawl through, which you can't even go up on your hands. It's elbows only.
Yeah.
And it's about, I think it's like 30 meters. And I ended up doing it going, oh my goodness, I would have never done this 20 years ago. So it's amazing. Hope is a powerful thing.
Yes. Yeah, no, and I think that's it, isn't it? And it's breaking down things.
It's a process. Don't expect overnight. It never is.
No, absolutely.
Took me 2 years.
Well, actually, I remember going to a hypnotist for heights, and I think she gave me a new fear. Like, she put me in a seat and she tucked me in so tight that I was like, I can't get out of this room.
Yeah, that's. Yeah.
So I was like, And I actually said to her, I have to go because I actually feel so uncomfortable here. And she was like, just tell me though about your fear. And I said, I'm frightened to fall in, etc. And she goes, well, that's completely normal. I said, I know it's normal, but my reaction isn't normal.
Yeah, that's the levels.
Yeah. So that's what I have to work on, is the reaction to that. And I always will try. So like if someone goes, we'll go on the Eye in London, and I'll go, yeah, come on, we'll give it a go. And then I'll just completely, it will have to move very quickly to get me down because I'll be pressing the red button, get me down, get me down. But I'll always give it a go.
Yeah, and I think as well, it's for me with the lifts, I started by stepping on and stepping off, holding the doors open. I wasn't getting into the lift straight away. Like there was and my heart was through the roof.
Yeah.
Like, so there's a process. The key is, it's little and consistent steps. That's it. Small steps, but consistently done over time. And the thing about it is, like, we're going to always not like, who likes to be restricted? The person who goes, I'm completely comfortable with it, is probably a more of a minority than the person who wouldn't be. So there's some natural, instinctive, intuitive things that we don't like because our brain goes, hang on, this is not how it's meant to be.
Yeah.
So that's normal. And sometimes you have to just, accept it to some degree. But if it infringes on your quality of life, that's the coaching term. Does it impact your quality of life? Well, then we do something about it.
Then we have to change it.
Yeah.
But for you, obviously, I always say my coaching came from, years before I qualified as a coach. When I was at school, I was like the social butterfly. So I was actually always a mediator. I always used to mediate between groups of people that didn't really get on or whatever, and I'd find the common ground for them. I worked in hospitality for years and whatever. So John would be at one end of the bar, Alex would be at the other. They'd always come in at the same time, and I would be like
glue.
And what I'd want to do is bring them together. So mediation and worked for me first and foremost. And that's how, and then I worked for an amazing company. And so when I went and trained as a coach over the few months and, the meetups, I was like, I've read all these books, I've done all this. And then I realized that my company had taught us very well as managers. They had trained us as coaches.
Right.
So it was a real style that they led. But to have the freedom then to do it in your own way. And most of the people I work with, actually, I mentor, not coach, because they want answers.
Yeah.
So then I have to explain to them what the difference is between a mentor and a coach and a psychiatrist and everything else. It obviously came to you really early, that piece with your parents and being able to watch your parents and the grafters that they were, I think is amazing. But when you go through school, I wasn't super academic myself, but I listened. I was always talking to people in the pub, whatever. Yeah. I was always listening to adults. I listened to everything, getting information all the time.
Yeah, I was definitely a listener. I think for me, I definitely know, I'm very analytical. So I can kind of read things kind of quick. And I just have been always that way. And the reason is I remember being handed stuff when I was younger, technical stuff or whatever else. My dad would go, we got this video recorder. I don't know how to set the timer on this. Will you do that? So at a very young age, I was kind of in that position. But I was always taking things apart and understanding things. And then obviously when it came to the human mind and psychology, it was like hook, line and sinker. I want to understand this. I was just fascinated.
Okay.
But it was technical first.
Okay.
That's where kind of it began. And I remembered having this conversation with my teacher. And he says, you could put your hand to, he said, business and you'd be good at the business. He said, but you'd also be good if you did science. And he said, you can kind of put your hand to different things. And he was really, really encouraging. And I was like, because I was looking like, what should I do here? And he goes, you're very analytical and you can learn things quick. And he says, so you'll kind of survive anything you do. Because I did these aptitude tests and you're saying you're kind of, kind of all-rounder almost. And he goes, so he was the first time I heard the word analytical. I was like, I'm analytical. You know what I mean? And I was like, okay, I'm 12 by hearing this word.
Thank you
and
so
I always
much.
remember that. But I do have a very, very big interest in people.
Yes.
I love people. I love their stories. Everyone has a book in them. And I think for me, it was just the interest in people because when I was very quiet as a young boy, such, I used to observe and watch, and I was like, why do they pick on him and not him? Why do they slag my shoes, but they didn't slag his. And I used to start noticing things like that. That was a very childish kind of thing almost. But as I progressed older, that same, I suppose, gene, if you call it whatever, that analytical thing, I started to kind of see how people work and different things. And then obviously when I got into psychology and business and whatever else, that was it. I was like, I love this. It all plays a part.
Yeah.
Oh, it's all making sense now, you know? And then obviously with my own story of anxiety, I really got it that the brain is a computer, and don't treat the brain like it's all your thoughts are your own. It's like Google search. If you're looking to find insecurities, your brain will show you reason to believe you're insecure. The same reason, if you're looking to find that you have what it takes, or there's no reason to feel imposter, your brain will, whatever you feed your brain with, it will give you on a search engine.
Yes.
And that's how the brain works. And I realized that. And how I word it myself, separate the head from the heart. The heart is like what you really want. And the head is kind of the practical, analytical side. Well, this is maybe what you should do. And this is what you qualify for. And we've no history in this. But your heart goes, now what do you want to do? And lean into that. And I always find that's where good businesses will come from. When people lean into their heart, what they want to do, what they love to do. Because passion first, profit later. I always say that.
But I completely agree. The amount of times I've met women and they're like, oh, I want to do this, Sean. And I'm like, why do you want to do it? And they'd be like, oh, well, Mary down the road is doing it. She's making a load of money. And I'm like, but Mary... The reason Mary does that is because Mary's daughter did that, and she's, oh, okay, you don't have the passion for it. Like, it's not, you're not doing it for a purpose. Like, I became a Pilates instructor because I truly believe movement heals. It healed me. So, like, it's part of me. It's part of my makeup. I'll never not teach, but it doesn't mean I can't do other things.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think people sometimes just need to sometimes people find it hard to find their passion, their purpose.
Yeah.
And that's when they get a bit lost. So having the tools to help them find that.
For sure. I mean, that's why I think everyone should have a coach. You know,
yeah.
I also think not everyone should have a therapist. But some people say I don't think so. Because sometimes talking about your past long enough can really bring it back into the present.
Yeah.
I think there's a time frame for that. We need therapists, of course. I'm not saying don't. But I do think everyone needs a coach, because a good coach isn't going to give you answers. They'll ask clever questions. And it's that kind of goes, the aha moments, the light bulb moments follow. And I always find that sometimes it's the best questions that actually give the person, because then the answer comes from their heart, from within. Yes. And they're like, no, this is what I need to do here in this business situation. This is what I need to do in this personal situation. And that's always the way. It's like people in a relationship. They're in a relationship. It ticks a lot of boxes. It's coasting nicely. But then, they end up breaking up and they go, I'd actually fallen out of love a long time before that. It's just, I didn't know what to do or how to do it. But having a coach kind of speeds up things and helps you prevent some mistakes.
Yeah. And it like, I know when sort of during COVID, I always just tell all those jokes, how many coaches it takes to change a light bulb, because you just like, can you all do it? Because everybody in the room was always a coach, and I'm part of a lot of networks, and there's just coaches. But I see now, like I always say, look, I wouldn't go to a nail technician that just qualified, because I know I ran a beautician's, her first 100 sets of nails are pretty shit. I meet people and they say, oh, Sean, I came to you 15 years ago for a reformer class. I go, oh, please come back, because I was shocking. And they're like, what do you mean you were shocking? And I say, well, you're not the same person you were 15 years ago, surely.
True.
So like, and having that understanding and having been through it like you have, it's just like gold.
I think so. It's like a brain surgeon. If God forbid you get a brain surgery and he said to you, yeah, you're my first one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Your confidence just left the room. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like it is going for the experience, but it's also the person you resonate with as well. And a person that's done what they're helping you with. There's a lot of like, coaches promising the sun, moon and stars, but they haven't done it themselves.
Yes.
Or a coach that's teaching coaching, and that's how that coach is making their money, just by teaching coaching, but they never actually coached.
Yeah.
So,
it kind of, I see like a sort of rolling, like a network marketing situation.
Yeah, exactly. It's like,
actually, I remember going to a coach one day and she said, I think it's ridiculous, Sean. I think you should be charging £10,000 for your clients, blah, blah. I can help you do that. And I said, oh, what do you charge? £10,000. I was like,
there's coaching, pyramid of coaching. So you've got to be careful. But I think one of the most important things that I think that it taught me was, so it's through the experience and different things that might help people today, is how you think is how it's going to be. And it is that Google search engine. If you start putting in reasons not to, it's going to give you loads of reasons not to. But if you start just putting in the reasons why you want to do something, or you believe you should be able to do something, it's going to give you reasons why. And that's why when someone's going through a difficult time, quite often I'll go, you've been through something like this before. And they go, oh yeah, something similar. Not as big as this, but it was something similar, but it felt the same at the time. Oh yeah, it did. And did you get through it? Yeah. And so forth. And I always say, so if you got it through it then, what's to stop you getting through it now? And never forget that, And I think for a lot of people, whether it's business or personal or whatever else, mindset is the most powerful thing, but it can also be the most debilitating thing if it works against you. And I think that's why coaches are important, but not even just, I'm not flying the flag just for coaches, but even if, for me, it started by reading books and by seeing people and going, maybe I could, because I felt like I was the odd one in the room, the uncool kid, like literally the ugly duckling for years of my life, and I was through school and so forth. And people say, well, you're so confident now and you're speaking. Where did all that change? Whatever else. And it was never an overnight thing. But I saw at one point, I have a choice. I can continue to see, because I never realized I saw myself like that.
Okay.
And then I came to an understanding, I can see myself like that, or I can see myself as equal. And I said, I'm going to go with the equal. Now that makes rational sense, but I don't feel it and I'm not convinced of it. And my subconscious is maybe not bought in yet, but I'm going to work on that I am equal, that I am enough, that I can do this. And I started to read people who'd been through similar stories, biographies and different things, and get around like-minded people, get around people who didn't look down on you, but also encouraged you and all of this stuff. And all of that was what changed everything. And now I can't identify with that 10-year-old now. And I think, isn't it amazing that I can understand it? I was there. That was me.
Yeah.
But it's so alien to me. I wouldn't change anything. It's kind of like watching back, you're going, that was the first season. When you watch 6 seasons of something, you kind of go, God, that was the first season. That was a long time ago. That was like the first season. I'm like, that was like a long time ago. That character has evolved a lot. And the reason I'm sharing that is anyone can do that. And it doesn't matter how tough it's been. I've worked with people who've been through traumatic, what I had was, traumatic to a degree.
Yeah.
But I'm talking real trauma, physical and otherwise, who've gone through the toughest of things repetitively. And I've coached some of these people over the years, and I've seen them come through the toughest of stuff. I saw one woman who was, I won't go too into it, but it could be, she was assaulted, put it away, physically by her dad for years. And the mother knew about it, but never said anything. And the child thought it was her fault. And after a lot of work, she now speaks and helps people and so forth in stateside. But her story, you would think, for most people, they wouldn't maybe last, they might check out.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And she didn't. And I'm like, if someone like that can get through something like that, anyone can move forward. It doesn't mean what happened was right, absolutely not. But the new chapter, that pen is in your hand. And I always think, what chapter, if we were to start afresh today and the past was faded out, who would you be and what would you do? Because so much of what we do today is based off what we've been or where we've been. And so much of our value is based on what happened. Well, you know what? Your value is not based on that. Your value is based on what you do now and where you see yourself going. And that for me was a catalyst. And that's why I started going, it's like season 1 of me being bullied. I'm like, I can't even see that season now. But it's amazing that it's all played a part. But I've seen people go through worse seasons and then come out to a better season. And it starts by that. That's kind of the moral of our chat today, but it's that choice. You get to choose who you are. You don't get to choose what happened and you don't get to choose to erase the past, but you get to choose what happens now and who you become. And then people say to me, oh, but Mark, age, I'm at my age now. It's a bit late for me to rewrite things and whatever else. And I'm going to give you the cliche ages, but a number because I have proof of that. A woman came to me, she was in her 70s. Her husband had passed away 2 years previous, but then her dog passed away. And she said, I was more upset over the dog than the husband. We won't get into that. So I run an online community. It's called Tribe. And it's for people in their 20s, 30s, 40s, all ages. But it's based around self-development, what we're talking about. But here's what happened. She came to me and she said, Mark, I don't know if you can help someone as old as me. She's in her 70s, 73, I think at this point or whatever. And she said, I've known. And my neighbours are just either sick or talking about sickness or what's wrong with you today. And she said, I just find it depressing. I want a new lease. I said, what do you want? Blank canvas. What do you want? She says, I want a social life. I want to have friends. I said, okay. We got working on her with confidence and self-esteem. She was from the country, so it wasn't much clubs to go to, whatever else. So we started working on her. After 6-7 months, she reaches out and she phones me. She had my number. And most people DM me, but she phones me because, old school. Yeah. She phones me. She said, Mark, I won't be needing your services anymore. And I said, no problem. Now I'm thinking it's a good or a bad thing. And she says, I've been looking at my calendar for the next while and I'm so busy and I'm all over the place. And when I said, brilliant. She goes, so I won't be needing your service because your service has succeeded. I said, wait, tell me, you're talking to the president of the Irish Country Women's Association.
Oh my God. Oh, I've got goosebumps.
And I was like, you can always come back to us. You can always come back. And she goes, well, here you go. And since, this is a couple years ago now, but she had passed me on to so many different people and different. So don't give me the ages, but a number. You know, when I worked in the city centre, last story, sorry, full of stories, but I worked with a young man and he was a kind of a leader of a gang. The guards told me, be careful of him. He's you know, like guns. And he was at that level and the guy was only 18, right? And I said to him, what's the plans? What's your future plans? Come on, you know, me, I'll be naive and whatever else. He goes, to live beyond 21. I said, why? Because my mother said, if I live beyond 21, just make that go with me, that promise with me. Because his brother died the week of his 21st due to an overdose.
Yeah.
I said, he goes, that's as far as I've thought. Just get past 21, make me happy. And I said, what if you got past 21 and you went to 31? What would it? And he said, I'd buy a house. I'd get my ma home. And he goes, the big thing is I'd buy my ma a dog. I said, why? Because we're leaving the flats, you're not allowed to have dogs. Fast forward, so I worked with him for a period of time. Then we lost touch, and that was it. And I was like, okay, our time was done, and we weren't working in the city anymore. I'm walking into the RDS, and a guy walks with me. Mark Fennell, is that you? And I said, yeah. And I said, no. I said, is that you? And I knew by the eyes, you know, big tall fella, all dressed out in like army gear. And I was like, what's the story? Black stuff. And he says, I'm a manager of security here now. I said, what? And he starts getting upset. Because of you. And he starts, this big lad, and I says, you know, and I'm like going to a match, not in that frame of mind at all. And it's all right, dude, it's all right, you know, whatever. And he goes, I got out of that area. He said, like you said, I need to make plans. I made plans because I was done with the cops calling to my house being raided. He said, it was loads of times. I'm sick of all that. I got out of that place. I left all my friends. I got have a house now. I have a missus. I have a child. And he said, and I bought me mad dog. And he said, I've waited 8 years to tell you that.
That is just delicious.
No Instagram back then.
And that's why you do what you do.
Yeah. And that's why, you know, and it's not rocket science. No. It's just down to everything starts with a choice. And then let's see where it goes from there.
Amazing. How do people work with you?
Yeah,
as she gets out her phone to book.
Reach out. Markfennell.ie is the Instagram, and it's also the website. So you can get in touch there. And there's a lot of helpful resources. Like I share free content all the time. That's what the Instagram's for. So check it out there. But just, you know, I think a lot of us are left with, there must be more to life. There must be more to me. And I would probably say to most people, I bet there is. You just need to unlock that door and close the door on a lot of stuff in the past. And that might just be enough to kind of open up a brand new chapter to get excited about, you know? It's
amazing. I could talk all day to you.
I know.
And we'll have to book you back in. But we did say next time red wine. But listen, we always finish with a question from our previous guest.
Oh, I love it.
So I will give you the question.
Do I read it out?
Yeah, and actually I know what I read the question before it came in.
What would you love to say to your 14-year-old self? Oh my goodness. That's a good one. Who left the question? Do I ask? Do we know?
I can tell.
You tell me after?
I'll tell you after.
Okay. What would I say? I would say, things will be tough, but things will also be good. And never give up on hope. That's what I would say, because that's what I still say to myself when things aren't going. Yeah. Never give up on hope. You'll get through it. And that's what I would say to my 14-year-old self.
Amazing. Yeah. Mark, thank you so much for today. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. You were brilliant.
Yeah, awesome.
Cheers.
Thanks.
You. Hi, and thank you for joining me for this week's episode of Be Bell Podcast. If you have any thoughts, questions, or feedback for us, we always love for you to get involved. And you can find us on Instagram at @bbell_podcast. Don't forget, though, that if you want to watch these episodes, you can see them all on my YouTube channel, Sian Horn. And don't forget to follow and subscribe. The more people that follow and subscribe, the better it is for the podcast, the more that we can improve future and going forward. So, with that being said, thank you so much for following Be Bell, and I hope you enjoy these next episodes.